All right, so move on to the next segment. I'll be sharing my fight prediction in the sport of boxing between Daniel Dubois and Joesph Parker. So this will be a massive heavyweight fight that will be taking place in the co-main event slot of the Arthur Beterbiev versus Dimitri Bivol fight card. And this is going to be a banger because you're going to have Daniel Dubois defend his IBF heavyweight title against Joesph Parker in the co-main event slot of that card. So these are the following storylines I have heading into this fight. The growth of these respective heavyweights has to be respected. From what Daniel Dubois and Joesph Parker have done in the last 12 to 15 months in the sport of boxing has to be truly respected by all boxing fans. Whether you're a fan of them or not, and you love heavyweight boxing like I do, you got to respect what these guys have done. Joesph Parker, in the last 12 to 15, or his last two fights, I should say, he defeated Deontay Wilder in dominating fashion. I believe I scored that fight a clean shutout, 12 rounds to 0 in favor of Joesph Parker. Then, in his latest victory last spring against Zhilei Zhang, he got dropped not once but twice in that fight against Zhilei Zhang, who packs a punch, as a powerful heavyweight fighter that possesses a lot of power. He came off the canvas twice and outboxed him in the second half of the fight. So Joesph Parker is riding a wave of momentum here. He's defeated Deontay Wilder, and Joesph Parker picked up the two biggest victories of his boxing career and is steamrolling his way into this heavyweight championship fight. But meanwhile, Daniel Dubois, he has been battle tested at this very young age. And yes, he did lose against Alexander Usyk in late 2023 by controversy fashion. That's a different topic for a different day. But you fast forward to how well he's done. He won 2 fights in a row and then became the IBF champion once Alexander Usyk relinquished the title, and then went in and had the best performance of his career when he knocked out Anthony Joshua at Wembley Stadium with 100,000 people in the stadium out there in the UK, and sent Anthony Joshua to the canvas not once, not twice, not 3 times, but you guessed it, 4 times, and knocked him out within 5 rounds, knocking out one of the best heavyweights in this current generation of boxing. Both of these guys are riding a wave of momentum. So what they have done for the sport and what they have accomplished in the last 12 to 15 months has been fun to watch. But another storyline is, which heavyweight fighter wants it more? I just talked about what they have accomplished. There is something that is waiting for them at the end of the tunnel after this fight. Because not only is the winner of this fight going to walk out with the IBF title in Saudi Arabia, but there is huge implications that are going to be happening in this heavyweight division for the second half of 2025. Now, Alexander Usyk is still the unified heavyweight champion. He has all the important titles, 3 out of 4 important titles, but he is missing that IBF title. Now, if you guys remember last year, and this is why I hate explaining this at times, because boxing has too many belts and it should be 1 belt per division like the UFC does it. But when Alexander Usyk and Tyson Fury fought each other in 2024, last year in 2024, the first fight was an undisputed heavyweight fight. Alexander Usyk was the first undisputed heavyweight champion that the sport of boxing has seen in over 25 years. It didn't last long because he had to relinquish the IBF title because he could not fight the mandatory, because he was already locked in to fight Tyson Fury in a rematch by the end of the year, so he had to vacate the IBF title. That's how Daniel Dubois became the IBF champion, but you can't really call him an email champion after that performance he had against Anthony Joshua. But nonetheless, the winner of this fight will be fighting Alexander Usyk at some point in 2025 with the undisputed heavyweight championship fight on the line. So there's a lot riding at stake in this heavyweight division this Saturday in the sport of boxing. But enough of the storylines. Let's get into the tail of the tape here. Starting off with the challenger, Joesph Parker. Joesph Parker has 35 victories, 3 losses to his resume. He has 23 victories coming away of knockout. Stands at 6'4" and has a reach of 76 inches. Then I'm looking at the champion, Daniel Dubois. Daniel Dubois has 22 victories, 2 losses to his resume. 21 victories come away of knockout, nearly a perfect KO record. Currently the reigning defending IBF heavyweight champion, stands at 6'5" and has a reach of 78 inches. So the height and the reach goes in favor of the champion of Daniel Dubois. We're going to see if that plays out for him. But these are the following game plans that I have heading into this fight, starting off with the challenger, Joesph Parker. Now, for Joesph Parker's sake, I think he's got to let his hands fly and land the 1-2 combinations. Now, Joesph Parker is a slick boxer. He has slick boxing skills. And I really think when you look at the landscape of this heavyweight division, how it's played out, how some of the favorites have either retired or they're out of their primes, Joesph Parker, you got to view him as a top 5 heavyweight right now. And I feel like his boxing skills are actually really underrated. And I feel like when he really sits down on his punches and let the hands fly and lands the 1-2 combinations, I think that's when he's in his bag, and that's the best version of Joesph Parker. So I think he should do that. Next, I think he should outbox Daniel Dubois. Now that's asking for a lot, but like I just said, I think he's got some underrated boxing skills at this heavyweight division, and I believe that Joesph Parker knows deep down inside that he's not going to knock out Daniel Dubois if he's going to win this fight. He's going to have to go to battle, go to war for 12 rounds, and he's going to have to land the cleaner punches, outbox Daniel Dubois, and be active for 12 rounds in order to get a unanimous or either a unanimous split decision or majority decision in favor of him becoming the new IBF champion. Now, last but not least, I think Joesph Parker's got to be alert defensively. Now, he cannot afford to be hurt too many times by a dangerous opponent that packs a punch like Daniel Dubois. You just saw what happened to Anthony Joshua. A guy that Daniel Dubois dismantled and dominated is actually one of Joesph Parker's 3 losses, that him losing to Daniel Dubois in the past. So he's got the cheat code to a guy that you beat. That really doesn't mean anything in the sport, but to a standpoint of you not being alert defensively, who's to say you can't be on the other end of that, being sent to the canvas by Daniel Dubois' power? Plus, you looked a little chinny in your last fight when you got dropped by Zhilei Zhang twice in the boxing ring. So I think he's got to be alert defensively, be on his P's and Q's, and make sure that he doesn't make the mistakes that could lead him to being knocked out in this fight. But those are the game plans for Joesph Parker. Now, for Daniel Dubois, I think Daniel Dubois got to establish the power. Now, he has a 95% KO ratio, and he's got to make Joesph Parker respect his power early on. If you make your opponent respect your power early on, what can you really do when it's time to be effective offensively? Because in the back of your head, you're thinking, "Oh, I got to take one of those licks again. I got to take some punishing damage again." I think if Daniel Dubois could do that early on, he has a good chance of winning this fight and dictating the pace of the fight. Now, next, I think Daniel Dubois is going to have to land that overhand right. That overhand right is something that it's a shot from the gods, a shot from the boxing gods, because that overhand right has some explosive power, and that punch packs a lot. And I think if Daniel Dubois could do that, make Joesph Parker feel uncomfortable, he has a good chance to win this fight. And last but not least, target the body. I think Daniel Dubois should target the body because he's an effective power puncher when he's going downstairs to the body. It can slow down Joesph Parker, and one powerful shot to the body can end it all with a liver shot. So I think that's going to be important for Daniel Dubois to do in this fight against Joesph Parker. But with that being said, I'm going to go with Daniel Dubois to defeat Joesph Parker by knockout to remain the IBF heavyweight champion, not undisputed, IBF heavyweight champion. But it should be a really fun fight between Daniel Dubois and Joesph Parker. Both fighters have shown growth over the last 12 to 15 months from what they have accomplished. So I think it's going to be a really good fight. However, as the fight goes on, I think that Daniel Dubois is just going to establish his power. He's going to make Joesph Parker respect his power. And I think it's just going to be too much for Joesph Parker to handle as the fight goes on. I think Daniel Dubois is going to use that explosive overhand right. Like I just said, that's a shot from the gods, from the boxing gods, that what he possesses in that right hand when he's laying the overhand right. He's going to use the stiff, powerful jab. I think he's going to outbox Joesph Parker and put on a masterclass performance, then send a strong message to a guy that he wants revenge against. That being Alexander Usyk. Alexander Usyk defeated him in late 2023. And Daniel Dubois wants revenge because in his mind, he believes that he knocked out Alexander Usyk with that shot that was above the belt line. So I think once Daniel Dubois takes care of business against Joesph Parker, it's going to set up for a highly anticipated rematch for the heavyweight titles being at stake between Alexander Usyk and Daniel Dubois for the second half of 2025. But I just think Daniel Dubois is going to knock out Joesph Parker, and I think he's going to put on a really good performance on this loaded card. But that is my Daniel Dubois versus Joesph Parker fight prediction.